I mean, he works his ass off. The guy can fight. He's a world champion, but just because you can fight and just because, like, it doesn't really mean, like, doesn't make you like a man, And there's these moments when, like, you see kind of like past, hey, I could fight. He works his ass off. Like,
Sean Strickland's been screaming for a title shot against Khamzat Chimaev for weeks now, calling him out relentlessly on social media, practically begging for this fight. But here's what's absolutely wild about Khamzat's response. He didn't fire back with trash talk. He didn't get into some messy Twitter war. Instead, this dude just vanished into the gym and started posting the most insane training footage you've ever seen. We're talking about a man possessed, grinding through these brutal sessions like the fight's already booked. And that's when the rumors started flying. UFC insiders are whispering about a massive championship bout, and Khamzat's acting like it's not just possible, it's already happening. The silence from his camp is deafening, but sometimes actions speak way louder than words ever could.
Sean Strickland, he's been saying some stuff in interviews about, he just didn't like your approach. Just why do you think he's saying that, and do you have a response?
I don't know, when I was there, they never said anything, When I leave the Vegas and when they stop my visa, he started to talk. When I come back, I'm in LA, bro. Come on. If it's something personal for you, just come. I'm here whenever you want.
Okay. But here's where things get really spicy. When Sean kept pushing, calling Khamzat soft and questioning his toughness, saying there's no way he'd actually step up and fight him, Khamzat finally broke his silence. And his response was ice cold. He told Strickland to sit tight and wait until his visa issues get sorted out, and then they'll settle this whole thing the only way that matters. Not through social media posts or press conferences, but with their fists inside the octagon where real fighters communicate. It's the kind of quiet confidence that either means he's completely focused on destroying Sean, or he's trying to buy time because he knows this fight could be trouble. Either way, the tension between these two is reaching a boiling point, and someone's going to have to back up all this talk.
On Strickland next. Guys, there's no debate. I had 24 hours to think about this. Because here's what I don't want to do. I got to tell you, as an authority figure in this sport, I don't want to pan Imanov. I don't want to do that. I respect him. I respect what he's done. I respect his patience. But Sean Strickland fought him in head-to-head competition. Now, a couple of things came out. I am behind the scenes, and I can tell you, guys tiptoe around Chimaev. Guys are scared of Chimaev. He has a presence. Sean Strickland said, man, I used to be in the gym with this guy. He's a punk. Ask the people that were there. Sean Strickland said, when I come into a gym, I go find the biggest, baddest dude, and that's who I spar with. When Chimaev comes in the gym, he...
Now here's where expert analysis comes into play, and it gets absolutely fascinating. Chael Sonnen spent an entire day breaking down this matchup from every possible angle, making sure his opinion wasn't influenced by any behind-the-scenes politics or personal relationships in the fight game. And what Chael discovered about Khamzat is genuinely unsettling. He talks about this aura that Khamzat carries when he walks into a room, how other fighters just naturally defer to him without even realizing it. But then Chael dropped this bombshell about their training history. Sean had previously stated that when he spars, he deliberately seeks out the absolute toughest guys in the gym, always looking for the most brutal rounds possible. But he characterized Khamzat as someone who prefers easier, lighter sparring sessions where he's not being truly tested. That's a direct shot at Khamzat's mentality, coming from a guy known throughout the MMA world for his absolutely savage approach to training and fighting.
disrespected everything that Fluffy Hernandez did. Fluffy Hernandez beat 9 men in a row. If Fluffy Hernandez beat Sean Strickland, that would be 10 in a row. 10 is the biggest number in the history of the UFC that anybody's had to do to get a title shot, and that distinction belongs to Merab. But to remind you, Merab was offered a title fight after 7. So the point that I'm making, if Fluffy Hernandez would have won and he would have gotten a title, we're being very disrespectful to the 9 men that Fluffy beat. We're being very disrespectful to the opportunity that Fluffy should have had. And when you play this game, it's the ultimate poker hand. You're all in. Whatever you got is on the line. You got a belt, it's on the line. It doesn't matter if you're undefeated and this guy's lost 5 fights. It doesn't matter if you're ranked number 1 and he's ranked number 8. When you get in there, it's all on the line, winner take all. Sean Strickland took it. Sean Strickland.
But Cael wasn't finished destroying that narrative, and this is where his argument gets really compelling. He started talking about the broader implications of this potential fight and what it means for the entire division. When you look at any fighter's journey to championship contention, especially someone who's put in the grueling work, embraced all the physical risks, and systematically conquered every must-win fight along the way, you're not just disrespecting that individual when you deny them their earned title shot. You're undermining every single opponent they've beaten, every obstacle they've overcome to reach that elite level. Cael pulled out the statistics on extended winning streaks in UFC history, showing just how incredibly rare and difficult it is to accumulate consecutive victories against top-level competition in this unforgiving sport. His point was crystal clear. When a fighter competes in a high-stakes bout, genuinely risks their ranking and reputation, and emerges victorious through dominant performance, that success absolutely needs to mean something concrete in terms of title implications. Sean Strickland dominated his most recent fight, put everything on the line, and because of that unquestionable performance, Cael argues he rightfully deserves to face Khamzat next.
Now, I do want to say, I was with Khamzat last week on the Jackson podcast, and Khamzat Chimaev told me that he is 240 pounds, right? What do you weigh right now, Khamzat? What do you weigh? Come on!
You can keep it a secret if you want.
I don't know.
That is gigantic. That is a good weight for a heavyweight, let alone a middleweight that fights at 185 pounds, 84 kilos. That would be a 55-pound weight cut that he has to go through. And by the way, he didn't look fat. He looked to be in really good shape, and he's down there in Newport Beach, California, training, running on the beach every single day. The man is working out hard, but there's no talks of a title fight. In fact, I asked him, who will you be fighting? And he said, brother, I don't know.
And get this, Michael Bisping is completely on board with making this fight happen, but he just dropped some absolutely mind-blowing information that changes everything. Bisping revealed that he recently spoke with Khamzat directly, and here's the bombshell that nobody saw coming. Khamzat is currently walking around at a massive 240 pounds. Think about that for a second. This is a guy who fights at 185 pounds, which means he needs to cut 55 pounds to make weight. That's not just physically demanding, that's an absolutely punishing ordeal that severely taxes the entire body and can seriously affect performance and health. Bisping made it clear that Khamzat isn't out of shape. He's actually training hard in Temecula, California, looking sharp and staying active. But here's the complicating factor. There's no officially announced championship bout scheduled for Khamzat yet, and he's the reigning middleweight champion without a clear confirmed opponent. Bisping firmly believes the priority must stay focused on defending the championship belt he already holds, instead of potentially moving up to light heavyweight and creating even more chaos in an already complicated division.
Certainly is some words, and Sean Strickland has beaten him before, beaten via decision. The reality is, who deserves it more? I don't know. Sean's only on a 1-fight win streak, but he is a former champion. Imavov hasn't done that, right? The reality is, Chimaev has got to fight one of them. I know he's talking about going up to 205, or he's thinking about going up to 205, and making 185 from 240 pounds will be very hard, okay? But I would love to see him in there with Strickland, certainly when he says that he choked him out multiple times, and his lightweight training partner choked him out a bunch of times. And then you've got Strickland calling him a Chechen, all this type of stuff, right? Talking a lot of shit, talking a lot of smack, not afraid to poke the bear, shall we say, right? That fight's got to happen. I want to see it, you want to see it, the whole world would love to see it, right? So I think he's got to stay at 185.
Now listen to this part, because Bisping then dove deep into the complicated scenario involving Sean Strickland and the division's other legitimate contenders, specifically addressing the dangerous threat of Nassourdine Imavov, who's been absolutely tearing through competition. Bisping readily admitted that Imavov represents a genuinely hazardous opponent with lightning-fast skills and an exciting style, a real threat to everyone in that weight class right now. But here's the crucial counterpoint that nobody wants to talk about. Sean Strickland had previously fought and convincingly defeated Imavov when they met in the octagon. This factual history prompted Bisping to ask a very direct, logical question that cuts through all the noise. Who genuinely has the greater, more legitimate claim to a title shot right now? While Sean is riding a powerful victory streak after his recent win, which is definitely impressive, he's also a former UFC champion, which adds tremendous weight to his overall credentials. Bisping kept returning to his fundamental premise throughout his entire argument. Khamzat must face one of the world's elite middleweights in his next defense, and the Strickland bout is exactly what passionate fans are demanding to see, specifically because of their undeniable tension, obvious animosity, and genuine personal dislike for each other that makes this so compelling from a storytelling perspective.
Contender do you think next for the title in your mind that could potentially have the most challenge to Khamzat out of the possible contenders right now?
Oh, it's hard to say. Like, I definitely think he has an argument now, especially because he's beaten Imavov and because of the way he put away Fluffy. But honestly, it's anybody's guess. You know, it's anybody's guess. The title fights and like contenders and that whole conversation is just so, random.
But wait, it gets even more interesting when you hear what Robert Whittaker has to say about this whole situation. When the former champion was directly asked whether Sean Strickland should become Khamzat's next official opponent for the title, Whittaker didn't immediately dismiss the idea, which is actually a pretty significant endorsement coming from a fighter of his caliber and championship experience. Whittaker stated he genuinely believes Sean currently holds a legitimately strong case for receiving such a high-profile championship fight, particularly after his tactically impressive victory over Imavov and his emphatic finish of Paulo Costa in his most recent contest. These dominant performances are exactly the sort of statement-making efforts that capture widespread attention throughout the MMA community and command genuine respect from peers. Yet Whittaker's being realistic about the sometimes frustrating truth that UFC championship matchmaking is frequently unpredictable and seemingly random, almost like a lottery situation that isn't consistently determined by objective sporting merit or rankings. Still, despite that realistic reservation about UFC politics, when considering only Sean's latest impressive performances and his proven fighting approach, Robert Whittaker genuinely feels Sean has positioned himself directly in the center of serious title contention.
There with Khamzat, man, and Sean Strickland's taking defense is pretty good, but we haven't seen him in there against. Like, would you say Fluffy and Khamzat, it's two different levels when it comes to the grappling? Would you say, like, in terms of the way, the strength, and yeah,
absolutely night and day. Like, having been in there with Chimaev and seen, and everyone who saw what he did to Drickus, like, it's not the same. It is not the same.
Here's where it gets absolutely wild, though. As their conversation moved to discuss the specific mechanics of how a potential contest between Sean and Khamzat would actually unfold inside the octagon, Robert Whittaker stuck to his experienced, well-informed opinion based on first-hand knowledge. He openly acknowledged that Sean's defensive wrestling and takedown defense is genuinely strong and well-developed, representing a high-level ability that's extremely effective against the vast majority of opponents he's likely to face. But here's the critical distinction that Whittaker wanted to make absolutely clear, and this comes from someone who's actually been in there with Khamzat. Grappling with Khamzat Chimaev is a completely different challenge altogether, operating on an utterly distinct level compared to normal UFC caliber grappling. Whittaker has competed against Khamzat previously, actually shared the cage with him, and felt his pressure directly, so he intimately understands what it feels like to deal with that level of grappling dominance. He even spoke about what Khamzat physically did to him during their fight, offering a graphic account of Khamzat's supreme grappling mastery and overwhelming control. His point was brutally honest. This is simply not the same caliber of grappling skill or relentless physical pressure that Sean Strickland has ever encountered at any point during his extensive professional career.
Sean Strickland should be the next middleweight title shot in the division, and I'm going to tell you why in today's video. My name is James Lynch. So Sean Strickland getting a huge win last weekend at UFC Houston in the main event, taking out Anthony Fluffy Hernandez by knockout. It was a picture-perfect performance here from Strickland, getting the third-round finish, stopping Hernandez and his 8-fight win streak, and solidified himself as a contender in the weight class. And right now, at the time we're talking, there is not a fight booked yet for Khamzat Chimaev. There's been a couple rumors out there, but you heard Strickland after his fight with Fluffy Hernandez. We'll play a little snippet of it here. He talks about what he wants next when Michael Bisping asks him, and Strickland doesn't hesitate, talks about Chimaev. We're going to watch that clip here real quick.
Next, Sean. I don't know, man. Chimaev probably gets off the bench, dude. I'd like a piece of that little Chechen Wolf. But you never know with him, bro.
Yeah, so you can see there, he wants this fight. And then to go even further, Strickland at his media scrum before, of course, he was cut off, which I'm not a fan of, talks about how he made Chimaev quit in training. Now, I'm not usually a fan of fighters revealing things in the gym. I think that's bad practice, but this is only...
And here's the kicker. James Lynch, a well-respected voice in the MMA media community, has been consistently arguing from the beginning that the upcoming middleweight title fight should undeniably be Khamzat versus Sean Strickland. Period. Lynch specifically highlighted Sean's commanding knockout victory over Anthony Hernandez, calling that performance a conclusive turning point in Sean's career trajectory. Looking at the current divisional landscape, Lynch noted that Sean effectively ended a frustrating losing streak against top competition, successfully pulling off this competitive accomplishment in a crucial main event spot that greatly elevated his divisional standing. Here's what makes the timing perfect. Khamzat currently has no fights planned or scheduled according to official UFC announcements, which leaves his championship in an uncertain holding pattern. Lynch points out that Sean moved strategically, immediately challenging Khamzat publicly right after securing his victory. And since there's genuinely no other clear #1 contender waiting for the middleweight champion right now, all conditions look absolutely perfect for this fight to happen. But Lynch wasn't done making his case, and this next part exposes the real problem with UFC championship politics. He explored the possibility of Khamzat potentially moving up to light heavyweight instead, highlighting the crucial fact that Khamzat only recently claimed the middleweight championship for the first time, but hasn't had even a single opportunity to defend that title yet. In Lynch's view, which is shared by many traditional fans and analysts, the idea of immediately switching weight classes to seek additional glory before defending what you currently hold is completely backwards. He firmly supported keeping Khamzat at 185 pounds, making sure he stays active and establishes his legitimate championship legacy there first. Lynch called out the widespread hypocrisy in MMA discourse, emphasizing how quickly fans criticize other champions for inactivity or lack of defenses, then asked the logical question: why should the standards be any different here? Following Lynch's arguments about merit and timing, Brendan Schaub clearly stated that the UFC must officially book the Khamzat versus Sean Strickland bout next as the immediate title defense. Hold up, because Schaub's reasoning gets into the business side that most people don't want to admit matters. He swiftly rejected Imavov receiving a title shot right now, arguing that Sean already defeated him previously, but more importantly from a commercial perspective, Sean Strickland remains the significantly bigger star and draw, which is vital in the fight business. Schaub stated that the UFC urgently needs marketable stars, especially American ones, for strong pay-per-view numbers and mainstream attention, and this specific matchup is completely ready to go immediately without complications. He noted that Sean would accept the fight without hesitation, pointing out that Sean emerged from the Hernandez bout nearly unscathed and in perfect condition to quickly return to action. Schaub took his argument further, boldly predicting that if Sean were to defeat Khamzat, the UFC would suddenly have a huge American star on their hands. Sean is authentically himself at all times, never playing a character, and he silenced critics with his recent performance, looking sharper and more focused than he has in quite some time. So here's where we stand right now, and this is why everyone's talking about this potential fight. Khamzat holds the middleweight championship, but has no obvious, definitively announced next opponent. The compelling narrative between these two fighters is already completely established through their public interactions and history. The genuine animosity is real, not manufactured for promotional purposes. It's authentic dislike combined with a stark contrast in fighting styles that's utterly captivating from a technical standpoint. Sean's persistent forward pressure and sharp jab work against Khamzat's dominant grappling ability and physical force presents a legitimate challenge for both competitors. From both a competitive and commercial business angle, this bout makes perfect sense right now. Any significant delay will cause the intense buzz and fan anticipation to fade, but if they book it immediately, it feels absolutely essential. This is what makes this sport so compelling. When things align with this level of logic and timing, you don't overthink it. You book the fight and let these warriors settle their rivalry once and for all. So there you have it. Two elite fighters who genuinely believe they're the best middleweight in the world, with legitimate bad blood between them, perfect timing, and no clear obstacles preventing this fight from happening. The experts are split on who wins, but they're unanimous that this is the fight to make. Sean's proven he can hang with elite competition and has the defensive wrestling to potentially survive Khamzat's grappling, but can he do it for 5 championship rounds? And will Khamzat be able to withstand Sean's relentless pace and volume striking if he can't get the takedown? That's exactly why this matchup has everyone in the MMA world buzzing right now. Here's my question for you, drop it in the comments. Who do you think wins if they actually book Khamzat versus Strickland? And do you think Sean's takedown defense is good enough to keep it standing? If this breakdown helped you understand why this fight makes so much sense, smash that like button, subscribe for more MMA analysis, and hit the notification bell because this story is just getting started. I'll see you in the next one.